Welcome to Mental Health Monday, where we dive deeper than traditional talk therapy does into your mental health challenges by uncovering how the subconscious brain is blocking you from getting to the top of your mental health game, personally and professionally. I'm your host, Kene Quarter, National Certified Counselor and the world's #1 financial hypnotherapist specializing in burnout and loneliness. Now, we've set the foundation over the last few weeks. Have you been watching our videos? If you have, great, you're on time. But if you haven't, I suggest you go back. There are some things you need to know. So, the foundation we set, we talked about resistance. We talked about managing your emotions. We talked about the top 4 negative emotions that leaders feel. We dove deeper, like we talked about those four, which burnout, loneliness, insomnia, and imposter syndrome. And then last week we went really deep on burnout, like really deep. And so I say if you didn't watch that one, you really want to watch it. But this will be a deep dive as well. So this week in our community, we are talking about one important subject, and that is loneliness. Let me tell you, this is hands down my favorite subject. I'm not kidding. I love to talk about loneliness, and I am deeply and intimately like I know pretty much everything there is to know about loneliness, not just because I experienced loneliness myself, but because as a mental health professional, it is the #1 thing that people come to see me about. Now, burnout is often comorbid with loneliness, or it's related to loneliness. So I see people on burnout a lot too, but really the loneliness is #1. So, what we're going to talk about today and what we are talking about in our community, I mean, we're really talking about it in the community. That is why you feel lonely, what you can do about it, and why it's not your fault. It isn't your fault. And I'm going to tell you why today. But first, remember, I'm going to give you the programs, the emotions that these programs create that go along with the loneliness. I'm going to talk to you about related challenges, like other emotional or mental health challenges that could come with loneliness, like burnout. But also, I'm going to talk to you about physical illnesses that can come with loneliness. Then I want to divulge some of the do it yourself remedies that you're using and get you to maybe stop using them. I want to tell you more about loneliness and what is the root of it. And then we'll continue to talk about our patient Max, tell you more about Max's story and what's happening there. So the programs that are really created from very early in life when it comes to loneliness are usually I'm not cared for. I'm not lovable. These programs get created because of, I'm going to tell you later in the root, because of these roots, you find that the programming is around not being lovable and that you can't make mistakes. You absolutely cannot make mistakes. If you make mistakes, you are in trouble or you won't be loved. Loneliness is also another program with loneliness is being able to read the room. Like a lot of people who experience loneliness, they also have this program running that they have to be able to be good judge of characters, right? They have to be able to know people and have the answers. That's the other thing about loneliness. This program that I must have the answers. And one other one is that I am last. I'm last in line. Everything else comes before me. And if you felt this, then you know what I'm talking about. So let's talk about other emotions, emotions that are created because of these programs. So loneliness is one of them. That's a feeling that you feel, but you can also feel these other feelings. Low self-esteem is one of them. Just feeling kind of down on yourself, like very self-critical. Yes, very critical of yourself. And then also, just looking here at my notes and taking notes because I want to make sure I cover everything for you. um, critical, but also you can feel like a numbness. Like you just have no feelings about anything. You're just numb. And then, which also is sort of like emotionally unavailable. A, a lot of my men feel this one, just emotionally unavailable. Often you can feel misunderstood, like nobody gets you. And another one is you self isolate. Maybe you feel like others are pushing themselves away from you, but sometimes you push yourself away from others. So you self isolate. And anxiety. Maybe you find yourself picking a lot, right? Picking at your face, picking somewhere. Maybe you tap your foot, your hand. You just can't sit still. That also is, part of burnout as well, but with loneliness, is very often you see it, a lot of anxiety, fear of just, not measuring up and not being enough. Just this fear that if you get it wrong, you're in trouble. Like, I said that in the programming, but you know how that feel. That goes along with the anxiety too, like, you just gotta get it right. You'll die. You'll die if you don't get it right. That's how it really feels. So I want you to also to understand the related challenges that often go with this, and that is workaholism, which also is in burnout, overeating, which also is in burnout, avoidant or insecure attachment. These are mental health challenges that you may see. You may be in Overeaters Anonymous, or um, Workaholics Anonymous. You might also be in maybe emotional therapy around your avoidant or insecure attachment. What about trust? Yes, this is not necessarily a mental health diagnosis or anything, but it is a challenge when you don't trust people. It is a challenge on your mental health. And then also sometimes you'll see a challenge being you feel like you have to be the performer all the time, the class clown. If you are around people, you're always on, you're always on, you're always on. You make everybody laugh. You have a lot of pain, so you send that pain out by laughing, and sometimes you're self-deprecating in order to get that laugh. So those are the related challenges. What are some of the physical illnesses that come with this? So one very common one is neck pain, but this one is very common, and it is chest pain. That could be lung, that could be heart, congestion, mhm, throat issues. Yeah, and when I say congestion, I mean the chest congestion more than the nasal congestion, but the nasal congestion can be present as well. Throat issues, lots of throat, swallow, clearing your throat a lot too. Laryngitis and bronchitis, even asthma. Yeah. So, and another one that you probably wouldn't guess would be like weak bones, brittle hair and nails, bad posture, shrinking. Yeah. And foot pain. Yeah. A lot of times there's foot pain. Now, you're gonna say, "Oh, but that's because you have bad posture," right? Some of these go together. One might start and then it causes the other one, but all of this comes because of the program that you're running, that you're not good enough, that you can't make mistakes, that you're last on the list. And now you're probably asking yourself, "Well, how can this physical pain and my emotional pain be connected?" I am going to do a video on that. But if you really want to know that like right away, then you need to be in our free community because you can ask me that question live. Well, that's not in our free community. In our free community, you can ask me that question, but I will reply in a text, kind of answer. But if you upgrade and become part of our digital community, then you can ask me that question live because you can come to our group hypnotherapy sessions. Tame your brain is life changing, but I'm not talking about that right now. I really want to focus on your loneliness. And if you feel lonely, then maybe being a part of this group and getting this tame your brain therapy, that's two things you can do in one. Mm. That might be a good idea. Well, let's talk about some of the do it yourself remedies that happen when you feel loneliness. You eat a lot of carbs, just like burnout. You're looking for, but in the burnout case, you're looking for like fake fuel. Well, in this case, you're more looking for that comfort food, and a lot of times, comfort food is carbs, so potatoes, the pizza, the yeah, donuts, that kind of stuff, doughy stuff. That stuff gives you some sort of warm and fuzzy feeling and a connect. It makes you feel like you have a connection. Cheese also gives you that. Cheese, ice cream. Ah, yeah. So and just know that the cheese, the ice cream, the dairy products make you feel like you have your mother's love. It's connected to mother's love. And we'll talk about in just a second the root and why you want the mother's love. So alcoholism. Alcoholism is associated with loneliness. When you isolate yourself, the thing that you do is go get some alcohol or drugs, alcohol or drug addiction. Now, sometimes you pick drugs that then allow you to connect with people, right? Because if you're drinking socially and the next thing you know, everybody's drinking, you're having fun, you feel connected, and then this happens, the sex addiction, because you're not feeling, you're numb. And sometimes the only way you can get yourself to feel is to have sex. And this is male or female, where you just put yourself out there and that is the way you connect with people. And sometimes you're connecting just let's just have sex and that way I can connect. I don't have to worry about being lonely. And I don't have to worry about being in love because this is just sex. But that way I keep myself safe. I avoid connection, but I get the fake connection, almost like the fake fuel. So sex addiction and then just overall, these are some of the even though these remedies aren't working long term, they do work short term. So another remedy that, and it is not going to sound good, but one remedy that you might also use is to like kind of love on people, like compliment people a lot. Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, you're so, and really, you don't really mean any of it. You just know that if you make them feel good, they'll make you feel good. So that's your version of a reciprocal relationship, but it's really not reciprocal. It's like, my phony love, give me back your phony love. So then you end up in relationships. And that's the last one I want to talk to you about is you may be like a serial monogamous, like relationships that last 3 to 6 months and on to the next one, maybe a year if you've done it enough and you're like, okay, I'm gonna try and stay. And then, but a lot of short relationships, short, in and out, in and out, in and out. But let me tell you, you can feel lonely with a husband and a wife and kids. And yeah, I said a husband and a wife. Not that you have a husband and a wife, but if you're one person with a husband and another person with a wife, you know what I mean. Anyways, you get me, right? See, I'm not alone. I'm with you. Thank goodness. And I'm so glad that we are having this conversation. Now let's go deeper into the root. So from 0 to 7 years old, you felt abandoned. Maybe your mother went back to work too quickly. Maybe you didn't have a mother at all. Maybe you had to, your father raised you and not having that mother made you feel abandoned. Or maybe you didn't have the other parent. Let's just say you had one parent, or maybe you didn't have either parent. Maybe your grandparents raised you and you felt abandoned. So maybe you were left crying a lot. They had that mental health remedy for children for a while where you just let them cry it out. And that could have created that feeling of I'm not important for you. And then maybe you didn't get enough physical touch. Like maybe they didn't abandon you, but they didn't touch you enough and hug you and care for you in that way. So maybe nobody in the household um, really looked out for you. You know what I'm saying? They just, kind of every man for himself. That's a great way to put that. And that's a program that could be running for you. The distrust, right? Trust no one. Do you have that program running? Do you have the every man for himself program running? Maybe you felt like um, nobody in the family looked like you. This happens a lot in my biracial. I work with in my outside work, like the work that my calls, I work with adopted and biracial children. I have a biracial I have a biracial grandchildren. So this is near and dear to my heart. But a lot of times when you grow up in the household, let's say one parent did abandon you, but it's a parent that you look more like, and maybe you're African American, your mother is white, and you don't look like your mother, you look more African American, and you grew up in a house where you didn't look like anybody in your household. This can create loneliness. Um, Maybe they just didn't act like you. They called you the black sheep. This is programming too. That's another program that could be running, that black sheep program. So these are the roots. This is what happened to you between 0 and 7, where, oh, this one is big. I should tell you this one too. Um, where you were told you're too much. Like, you're just too much. You're just too much. I can't handle you. You're too much. Yeah. If your parents worked a lot, or when they were home, they just didn't want to spend time with you. And or maybe they did everything else and then finally they came to you. And then you probably, that's zero, what happened to 0 to 7. And then later in life, you probably created relationships like that, where a person was emotionally unavailable for you, mainly because you are as well. And then they put you last and like, oh, I'm gonna do all these other things. And then I'll take you out on a date, or I'll go out on a date with you, whatever, right? Make you last. Verbal abuse. I don't want to forget that one. I have to give you that one. Physical and verbal abuse, especially verbal. If you got a lot of verbal abuse, if you made a mistake and you got hit, or talked down to, then you can easily feel lonely. So let me tell you about Max, our patient that we have been working with. So I told you the story about Max. If you want to know some background on Max, you can listen to the previous video on burnout. But let's talk more about Max's situation. So what I didn't tell you was that Max's mother was a workaholic. She was a teacher at a private school, and she put the children at the private school before Max. One of the other things that she did was she she wanted to make those kids feel important. So one time she bought Max a present, a football, and he only had it for a short time. And she took it and gave it to the kids at school because the kids at school didn't have a football. And so she ignored Max a lot because for some reason, these kids, she wanted to save these kids and ignored the ones she had right at home. So that's maybe similar to your story. Maybe you felt something similar to that. And I want to give you some field work, something that you can take with you to make some changes right away, starting immediately. And this is going to seem small, but I bet I'm telling you it's big. Trust me, it's big. I said trust. And if you've experienced loneliness, then trust is low. So even if you don't trust me yet, I think watching more of these videos will help you trust me. But also, another thing that'll help give you some trust is to try this. Write down, what are the things that you love or even just like about yourself? And then I also want you to write down, what does a reciprocal relationship look like to you? So I'm pouring into you, right? I'm giving you free videos here. And then I'm also pouring into you in the free community. And then maybe that reciprocal relationship is that then you take a step towards me, you begin to trust, and you jump into our Prosperity Pro digital membership, and you make a small investment that's going to make a huge impact on your life. And maybe that's what you do next. And then that relationships become more reciprocal because you were receiving at first. And maybe you don't even know how to receive. Maybe receiving is foreign to you, but you're doing a great job right now. And when you're lonely, a lot of times you don't even feel like you deserve to receive. But I'm telling you, you do. So I want to thank you for staying all the way to the end of this video, sharing your time with me, understanding that I find you valuable and that we have so much more work that we can do together. So again, I am Kene Corder. Thank you for being here at Mental Health Monday. I look forward to seeing you next week. And if you have questions or if you want to connect, I'll put some links in the description. You can join our free community. You can go to our website and see some of the other programs. You know what? If you are a therapist yourself and you want to learn Tame Your Brain therapy, visit our website at presidentiallifestyle.com Or if you want to suggest to your therapist that she or he become Tame Your Brain certified, I don't know, try it. If you don't have a therapist, then I say join us. Come into our community. We'd love to have you. And then you will not be lonely anymore. It does not have to be lonely at the top. You can take people with you. I'm taking you with me. So come on over here. I'll see you sooner.